Hi guys, it's Jess from Honest Fiction and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be tier ranking age gap romances. Alright guys, so I recently realized that I read a ton of age gap romances. So I have 20 on this list that I'm going to be tier ranking. Now I will give a very brief spoiler-free review of every book and then just rank them based on my feelings. Now if you're unfamiliar with my channel, I post new videos every Thursday and Sunday. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. You can also hit the notification bell to be notified whenever I post new bookish content. You can also check out my Instagram and Goodreads, both linked down below. With all that out of the way, let's get into the tier rank. Alright guys, so welcome to the tier rank. Let me just explain the tiers. First up we have Perfection. I loved absolutely everything about this book. I recommend it to everybody and I will reread it. Then we have Great, where it's still one of my absolute favorites. Then we have Okay, where it was good while I was reading it, but I won't necessarily recommend it to people. Then we have Not For Me, where I understand why a lot of people do enjoy this. Personally, it just wasn't my taste. And then we have Nope, which is just Nope, didn't like it. So first up we have Mafia Mistress. I love this duet. It is one of my absolute favorites. It is following Francesca and Fausto is this alpha guy that's really high up in the Italian mob, and he essentially kidnaps Francesca, takes her to Italy to marry his son. Things don't end up working out, so then Francesca becomes Fausto's mistress, and it's really steamy and really good. I'm gonna put this with Great. I don't have Mafia Darling on this, but if I had the second book in the duet, I would put that with Okay. I feel like Mafia Darling, we kind of lost a little bit of Fausto's like angst and authority. He kind of felt a little bit more mellow in the second book and I didn't love that. But the first book I've already reread once. So definitely that's gonna go in Great. All right, this next one's controversial. So it's torn by Carian. I love Carian, love her writing. I'm actually gonna put this with Not For Me. So this is a godfather daughter relationship, and he is known, I forget their names, but the main love interest has known the girl since she was a baby. It's his best friend's daughter, and there are scenes where like they're adults now, or at least the Mackenzie's 18 years old, and like they're kissing and he's like thinking back to when he like taught her to ride a bike, and like just some things that I was like, I don't love this. However, I did love the romance. I love the story. It was just, there were some parts that were a little cringy for me. So I'm gonna put it with Not For Me, but I do understand that a lot of people do very much enjoy this book. All right, next up is actually an interesting one. Lessons in Sin. So I think I personally am just not a huge fan of like the priest romance. I read Priest by Sarah Simone. I couldn't finish it. I hated that one. Lessons in Sin, I actually did finish. I did like the romance. I'm gonna put this with Okay, because this is one that I liked while I was reading it, and it was good, but I don't know if I'm necessarily ever going to recommend it to people. It was fine. All right, this next one, Sweet Dandelion, I love. So this is by Smeltzer, the same person that did The Confidence of Wildflowers, and it is following Dandelion, and something very traumatic has happened to her in her life, so she has to move schools, and she goes to live with her brother, and when she starts at this new high school, the high school tells her that she has to go to guidance every single day. And it's a guidance counselor-student relationship. Lachlan is the guidance counselor. And I thought I was gonna hate this book because I work in guidance and in the counseling, like CST office, but I really enjoyed it. And I love Lachlan as a character. So this is actually, it's between Great and Perfection. It might actually go in Perfection. I really, really liked it. So that might change, we'll see. All right, the next one actually is The Confidence of Wildflowers. So this is age gap. We're following Salem and Thayer. Salem is this young girl living in this small town. She's been dating the same guy for a while. She doesn't know what she's gonna do after she graduates high school. And then you have Thayer, who's this very attractive architect, single father who moves in next door, and they form a relationship. This is going in Perfection for me. I will say I love the first book. This second book, it was okay. I didn't really love the second book, but the first book was phenomenal. Just check trigger warnings. There is something very upsetting that happens at the end of the first book. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. All right, moving on. We have Welcome to the dark side, and this is the second book in the Fallen Men series. I have a full spoiler-free review I can leave in the cards and in the description on the Fallen Men series. It's a Motorcycle Club series, really good, by Giana Darling. So Welcome to the Dark Side is following Zeus, and he is this older guy that ends up being in like a pen pal relationship with this young girl after he saves her life, and then when she turns 18 they start up a relationship, and this is going in great. I really loved it. It was one of my favorites. All right, then we have Lessons in Corruption, which is the first book from the same series, and this is student-teacher, and it's age gap with the teacher being the woman in the relationship. So I wasn't sure how I felt about this while I was reading it. It was a little bit off to me, but I ended up loving the first book, and then the fourth book follows the same couple. So I'm actually gonna put this with okay. It's not my favorite in the Fallen Men series, but I ended up liking it a lot more than I thought I was going to. Next up, we have Darling Venom. I have thoughts about this book. I feel like I loved the very beginning, and then the end was just, it was a little messy. So we're just following this girl who's like best friends with this guy, or not best friends, but she's friends with this guy, and they make a pact that they are going to meet on this rooftop every year. They were both threatening to do self-harm, and then one day the girl, I'm not even gonna give it a spoiler, but things go, we jump into the future, and the main girl meets that guy's, her friend's older brother, and they start a relationship. This is gonna go between okay and not for me. I think I'm gonna put it with okay. Like, I didn't mind it while I was reading it, and there are some scenes that are very touching. Actually, that's a lie. It's gonna go in not for me, because all the scenes I liked don't involve the love interest in this. I didn't like him as a character, so I'm actually gonna put it with not for me. All right. This next one, perfection, just jumps right on up there. Dark Notes by Pam Godwin is one of the best like student-teacher romances I've ever read. Definitely check trigger warnings. It is unbelievably dark. Most of her books are, but I loved Dark Notes. It is following Emmerich and Ivory is this girl that is living in poverty. She's having a terrible home life, and she has a scholarship to this very prestigious school, and she meets Emmerich, who is her new teacher, who was kicked out of his last school for having an inappropriate relationship. And we find out that he's kind of into like BDSM, and he ends up becoming almost like Ivory's protector. He just takes care of her, and their relationship I love. It also has like a little bit of BDSM, but oh my goodness, it is so good, so highly recommend it. All right, and next up we have Corrupt. And it is, I actually forgot this was an age gap romance, and it is part of the Devil Knight series. I haven't finished the series. I stopped at Hideaway, which I think is only the second book. But this is like a bully age gap romance, and I honestly have to go back and reread it, because all I remember is that the one girl ends up having a crush on this guy, and then all of his friends get sent to prison, and he like blames her, and then we find out that she's kind of like turned on by being scared, and like he kind of plays with that a little bit. But I did enjoy this. I'm gonna put this with okay, only because I don't remember a lot about it. I'm sure if I picked it back up, I would, but it's just, it wasn't a standout read for me. All right, next up we have Birthday Girl, and that is also going right up to perfection. Pike and Jordan, oh my goodness. So this is also by Penelope Douglas. This is following Jordan, who is this girl who's been in a relationship for a long time. And her boyfriend just doesn't really treat her well, and then it's her birthday and he forgets to pick her up from her job. So she goes to the movies, and when she gets there, she meets this very attractive older gentleman, and they have like instant chemistry. And unfortunately, we find out that he is Pike, and he's actually her boyfriend's father. And then Jordan and her boyfriend end up moving in with Pike, and it's really angsty and good, and I love Jordan and Pike together. So definitely going in perfection. I should have known there was going to be a lot of perfections. I love age gap romances. All right, so next up we have Kulti by Mariana Zapata, which technically is age gap. It's this girl who wants to be a soccer player, and she's kind of idolized this guy her entire life, another player, and then he ends up becoming her coach, except he's like really grouchy and rude and like not the greatest. So I am going to put this with, it's between okay and great. I think I'm gonna put it with great, because I do really, I enjoyed Kulti, and I do recommend it to a lot of people. My favorite, Mariana Zapata, being All Roads Lead Here, which also I'm pretty sure is age gap. I should have had that on this list. That's a really good one. Definitely read that. All right, next up we have Devious Lies, which is from the same author as Darling Venom, Parker as Huntington. And this is a girl that lives in this like mansion. She's really well off, but she has the biggest crush on her house cleaners. That's not the word I'm looking for. Her maid's son. And she is just obsessed with him. And then he ends up breaking up with his girlfriend. And she decides now is her chance. She's gonna sleep with her best friend. She sneaks into his window and she ends up sleeping with his older brother. And it kind of goes from there. It's also a bully romance and I very much enjoyed it. I'm gonna put it with great. It's really long, but really, really good. All right, so this is the next one I have thoughts about. So, Medicine Man. I just finished reading this, and while there are parts that I very much enjoyed, there were some parts that I really disliked, and they were mostly the steamy scenes. So this was, I don't know when this was written, and I really need to look it up, because parts seemed creepy. There were some cringy moments between these two, and it's following this girl that's sent to a mental institution for depression, and she tried to do something, trigger warning, self-harm, and she gets sent to this mental asylum. And one of her doctors is Simon Blackwell, I believe, and he's this very attractive guy. And they start sleeping together pretty soon after meeting. I think it's like a week into meeting. And it does feel a little bit like he is in a guardian role and is taking advantage of her because we're in her mind a lot and she seems very immature. So, and she also explains that she's very impulsive. So I don't know how I feel about this one. I think it's between nope and not for me because there were parts, like I said, that I did very much enjoy, but then their like sexual time together just kind of, it creeped me out a little bit. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with not for me on that one. All right, next up is Dangerous Temptation, and this is like a guardian age gap romance, also involving the Mafia. This is going in great. So this is following this girl, Bianca, who's taking care of her younger brother. He has epilepsy, and she's just super mature. Her mother is like very flighty and just likes to date around. And then her mother ends up dying and Bianca and her brother end up going into custody of Tiernan. And he is this very brooding, angry guy that lives in like a gothic mansion and they form a relationship. And there is a significant age gap, but I loved them together. So highly recommend. All right, this next one, Eyes on Me. This is probably gonna be controversial. I didn't like this book that much. It was fine. It's part of the Salacious Players Club, and it's following step siblings. So this guy is a voyeur. He likes watching people have sex, and he ends up like joining this like cam type website, and he finds out that his stepsister, who's significantly younger than him, is a cam girl, and like they start a relationship. And I just didn't feel the connection in the relationship like I did with Praise by the same author in the same series. So I'm actually gonna put this one with not for me. All right, this next one, Praise, is gonna go great. So Praise is following Emerson, and him and his friends start the Salacious Players Club. This is the first book in the series. And it's this club that caters for people's kinks. So it's doing very well. And then Emerson's son ends up breaking up with his girlfriend. And the girlfriend's trying to get money from the son, and the son's like, go to my dad, he'll write you a check. So the girlfriend, Charlie, ends up going to Emerson's apartment or his business, and it was like, hey, I need money. Now, Emerson thinks this is his new submissive, and luckily, Charlie's kind of into it, and they form a relationship, and it was so good. So I love the first book in the series. So Praise, definitely check it out. I still have to read Give Me More. I've heard really good things. I'm very excited to listen to that book. All right, next up, we have Hush Hush by Lucia Franco. So this is following a girl who's very down on her luck. She's trying to make money, and her friend suggests working at this high-end like escort service. And she ends up doing that, and the one rule is you cannot date clients. And she ends up doing that anyway because she meets this very handsome elder guy with like a New York accent, and then drama ensues. This book is super steamy, and it's really good. It's going in great. It's great. I very much enjoyed it. All right, next up we have The Balance series by Lucia Franco. So this is following Rhea, who is this girl who wants to become an Olympic gymnast. Like that is her driving goal in life. So her father sends her to his friend's gym. The father sends her to his friend's gym, who is Kova, and Kova and Rhea end up forming a relationship. Once again, significant age gap, But oh my god, it is so toxic and it is so messy, but I love every second of it. So that is going in perfection. I still have to read the last 2 books. I cannot wait. But oh my goodness, definitely check out the series if you haven't yet. All right, and last up, we have Twisted Love. I'm actually gonna put this with not for me. I did not like this book, and I think it's because it was like so overhyped. I think I went in with like very high expectations, but this is older brother's friend. So it's not like a super significant age gap, but there is a decent age gap. And it's a lot happens in this book, and it just feels like nothing was fleshed out completely. So I wasn't a huge fan of it. So I'm gonna put that with not for me. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching my tier rank video. Please let me know down in the comments below, what is your absolute favorite age gap romance? And I said this already, I post new videos every Thursday and Sunday, and if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. I will see you all next week. Bye.